Hi there, this is Michael from Elixir Online. Welcome to my channel. This is my second only video, and today I want to present some wild speculations, as we call them, on the subjects of hacking and how technology and witchcraft are being merged or combined to for lots of reasons, but let me just go into some technical information here. Now, as we can see here, this is an article on a router flaw, and this is just an example of how insecure routers and connected devices are these days. This is quite recent, from April. It details how a ZTE router had a hard-coded flaw, which, I mean, the article is using diplomatic language. It basically, as I see it, has a backdoor that's been coded in by the people who designed it, and it provides total and complete access of the router. But I mean, this is already known. We know that routers, connected devices, mobile phones have multiple backdoors. Some of them are by law, some of them for espionage. But this one was a pretty serious one because it was found to be hard-coded, so that means it was, it was found in the source code. It was designed to be in there, basically. And ZTE, you can understand why maybe people like Trump are speaking out against them, or actually taking action against this company. So this is just an example, as I say, like routers and connected devices, especially home routers, are basically riddled with backdoors. The hacking community knows this. They basically have multiple backdoor. They're completely open up to any kind of hackers. Now, I have to move quickly. Now, the other hack that has been discovered in the last year that is really serious, actually, is this Spectre hack. And here we can see the article. They've used an appropriate picture here because, of course, the one-eyed Illuminati symbology picture. So this Spectre vulnerability was found originally for Intel CPUs, but it's since been discovered in all kinds of chips. And basically it's a vulnerability in the hardware itself. So it's basically a vulnerability they're saying it's from a design flaw, but how do we know it's an actual flaw and it hasn't been put in there on purpose? Certainly this image is appropriate if you believe that it may have been put in there by purpose. Maybe this article writer does. So this was discovered last year, and it's been, they can't fix it actually without designing new CPUs completely, so they have to keep bringing out patches, and they keep finding new variants of the hack. This article is just from the last week. I mean, articles are coming out every week on new vulnerabilities. So this continues the theme of, all of this hardware, this computer hardware, it's all got backdoors, all kinds of backdoors, software, hardware, multiple levels of access you can get to it. And I think, they've called this hack Spectre. When it came out, as you can see here, they actually assigned icons to it, Meltdown and Spectre, and it's a ghost and a melting shield. Now I think they know they might be suggesting something else that I'm going to suggest, or it may be just a coincidence for this. Yeah, so these are really serious vulnerabilities in the hardware. Normally you find vulnerabilities in software. You don't normally find gaping holes in the hardware design. So interesting, isn't it? They've called it Spectre. It can do all kinds of hacks. So you basically have complete access to the system with these hardware level hacks. And it was discovered by what does it say? Oh yeah, some people from Google and University of Maryland, University of Graz. Yeah, it's a hardware hack. It's basically says everyone has it, and you can't really stop it. You can patch your system, but even that they don't know if that would completely fix it, because they're finding new variations all the time. So this links to Spectre, of course, was one of the most notorious James Bond villains. Spectre, it was a recent movie, and basically Spectre is part of an organisation that has infiltrated MI5, MI6, and the bad guy is played by the German guy, Christoph Waltz. So, and this Spectre organisation, well, they're the type of James Bond villain that you would expect to put vulnerabilities into hardware. You'd expect them to infiltrate organisations such as chip makers, and yeah, it would be a diabolical plan to put their to put their vulnerabilities in the chips, and then they can have access to all computer systems. Is this a coincidence? Not sure about that. Well, Spectre in the Bond universe, in Marvel universe, is called Hydra. Now, the Hydra icon is pretty much the same. Don't know if it's been saved here. Yeah, it's this tentacle. These are Opticus tentacles. So, I mean, in fiction, you often get a lot of truth in fiction presented as fiction, so it doesn't scare people so much, and for other reasons. So Hydra, yeah, it was, the Nazi organisation, and even though the bad guy in Spectre was German, I mean, the Nazis, if you've really studied them, they're not just German. This is not an anti-German thing, but they are associated with Germany and technology, engineering. They do very well, so they would naturally be associated with this. Now, Spectre and Hydra is also linked to the Full Society, which is like an ancient occult society that was associated with the Nazis, and they're also said to go back a long time. Mesopotamia, ancient Greece. This is the Chinese dynasty, so I hope that we have the Chinese link. Again, I'm just skimming through this quickly so I can get the presentation finished in a good time. So we might have some links here. This is just wild speculation, of course. And then the Full Society, yes, it's been around since history. They're known as sorcerer scientists. They eventually, they were maybe taken out in World War II, but it's suggested that they went to the United States afterwards, infiltrated the US. Of course, this is something that's known or speculated on quite a lot by researchers. Yes, so what I want to present is a theory, some speculation on, well, what if there was an additional level of backdoor access to these chips and to this technology, and what if it used its scalar technology? Scalar waves are also called longitudinal waves, and this website, and they sell some components to make your own devices. And now I'm interested in this because I do use radionic devices for distance healing, and basically you can use scalar waves because the physics of them they travel instantly, so you can have a connection to someone or anything in the universe instantly. And in Star Trek this is called subspace. So you can read the description here. It's to do with quantum entanglement. It's to do with spooky action at a distance. Basically, it's like a radio wave, but it travels instantaneously, and you cannot block it using any conventional means. And it also, our DNA is also said to be a scalar wave receiver, and it can send and receive scalar waves or longitudinal waves. Now, how the antennas work is the antennas work on sacred geometry here. So you input the information, and that can come from a computer, a sound, or a crystal resonator, and when it travels through the specially arranged geographic pattern, that itself creates the scalar wave. Now here are some examples of some antennas that you can actually buy. This person sells them, and these are for radionics, so they're mainly for healing. It's what I use them for. I have my own radionic system that I use for healing. And yeah, I'm just showing you basically the scalar waves are based on a geometric pattern. That's how they are broadcast. Now, they don't have to be. Actually, the geographic pattern can be replaced by a algorithm in a computer. So you can represent something like this, these geometric patterns, in an algorithmic form, and they will still. It's been shown, or I would speculate it's been shown, that they create scalar waves. So you don't need this actual antenna to create the scalar waves. You can just have them as a mathematical representation. And I want to go further. I'll just show you some radionic devices on eBay here. Most of these are used for healing, but they are computerized, some of them. So let me find a computerized version. Go down here. This one is, well, actually no, that one's not computerized. That one is not. Well, there aren't any computerized versions specifically on this page, but you do have computerized versions. So they can also be. What I suggest is there is another way. There is another potential for backdoor access in computer chips using these scalar waves to access them, and if you combined it with Meltdown and Spectre, well, that would be a perfect way to have access to any computer anytime, any chip at any time. You would link these, of course, to quantum computers, and because it is using quantum physics, and then you have potential access then to every computer, every chip that's been designed, and basically you wouldn't have to have these antennas as part of the chip. You could just create the chip with the antenna, with the geometry of the antenna. So even you wouldn't even have to, the person designing the chip wouldn't even have to know it. You could engineer that into the machines that make the chips. You could engineer these geographic patterns, and then therefore you could engineer the CPU operations to be broadcasting scalar waves, with every cycle. So I don't think anyone else has suggested this. but as I say, this is my suggestions based on what I've seen, and maybe if you see, and if you did see this, if this was on your computer, you would see your CPU access go up even though you weren't doing anything. Now here you can see my CPU access is at 31%, but all I've got is a couple of web browsers open. I'm not saying that this is reason here, but here are my processes. This is a USB Linux. There's no it's a fresh install, but I've got very high CPU access, and I wonder if anyone else has noticed this, that their CPU has been warming up, and even though they're not really doing anything on the computer, if they've got a fast PC with not actually the system using all the resources, but the CPU is running quite fast. This is just wild speculation, but maybe there's another reason for this. Okay, I'm gonna finish this presentation now. If you have any comments, please do leave them.